I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, degenerate sleuths of the night. We gather to boldly go where others have refused. Welcome to the DT show, you salty mofos.
A man accused of killing 4 college students is behind bars, and he has ties to northeastern and central Pennsylvania. State police say 28-year-old Brian Koberger was arrested this morning in a home in Chestnut Hill Township.
I can't find any case law that would support that idea. That somehow a warrant would be needed for DNA left at a crime scene.
We are expecting to learn more about the allegations against the girlfriend of a Boston police officer who was found unresponsive in the snow Saturday morning. I-Team sources say Karen Reed was in a relationship with John O'Keefe. She's facing charges including motor vehicle homicide and manslaughter.
So, the Commonwealth just provided the court with information that causes me grave concern. The implications of that information may have profound effects on this defense and defense counsel.
So, get your popcorn ready and your choice of drink. Get your butt on your seat. Like, comment, and subscribe for a treat. Here we go. It's time for the show. The Drunk Turkey Show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the DT show. Look, it's good to see so many familiar faces. Thank you for coming in. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell so that way you're notified every time we go live. We got a great show for you guys tonight. We're going to be talking about the Summer Wells disappearance. Michelle After Dark had a video that aired out today in response to a live that I did last night with Ryan Finds Truth and Dr. Vona from The Minds Behind True Crime with Dr. Vona. And she brought up some excellent points in her video and whatnot. And today I wanted to kind of go through the video, see what she's saying. I have a lot of respect for Miss Michelle. Hopefully maybe one day she can come on the panel. That would be great. And maybe perhaps we'll see where I was wrong or right or indifferent. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell. So without further ado, let's break it down. Let's get into it. Let me pull up the right. I don't even think I have it open yet. Let me pull it up real quick. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the video from last night. Make sure you go and follow Miss Michelle After Dark. She's about 1,200 and so folks away from hitting I believe a 100,000 subscribers. So go help her out and do that. That'd be great. She does a lot of great work and puts out a lot of good content out there. And so, but without further ado, let's look at it. Let's break it down, and I'll respond as we go along, as I always do. So yeah, she is close to 100,000. Let's get her there. Let her know that Drunk Turkey Show, the DT show, sent you. All righty. And I want to say welcome to Teddy Bear 987 for being the newest member. Guys, we have a Discord and we have a great community on the Discord. It's for the members. After the show, what I'll do is I'll put the link in the community post for the newest members to sign up and get into the Discord. I go in there and talk occasionally about the cases, and a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about on the show sometimes comes out there first. So I encourage you guys to go check out the Discord and become a member. And so, without further ado, let's break this down.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle. I hope you're doing well.
I'm gonna slow her down a little bit. It's normal speed for me, but I know for a lot of folks. And then let me turn this up as well so that we can hear her. All right.
Welcome to another video. It is Wednesday morning, the 3rd of December. In this video, we're going back to the Beech Creek community of Hawkins County, which nestles in between the towns of Rogersville and Kingsport in northeast Tennessee, to the case of missing then 5-year-old Summer Moon Utah Wells, who was reported missing on June 15th, 2021, after she was last seen by her siblings going out of the basement door. Yes. If you know this case well, you will know that that's not quite the script that Candice and Don Wells told everyone, but it is what Summer's brothers told Sheriff Ronnie Lawson on the night that Summer was reported missing.
Siblings telling authorities that they saw her walk out the back door of their home last night.
She loved to be outside all the time.
There's a little factoid for you.
And that was something that I had brought up last night as well on the live with Ryan and Dr. Vona. I said, hey, because while I was doing my research, I found another news clip that referenced also that that the boys may have seen Summer walk out at the back of the house, and so that she may have left. I completely agree with this, and that was something that we had brought up before.
That a lot of people forget. Anyhow, what we're going to do in this video is go back into the Summer Wells vault, which is the 30-odd gigabytes I've got on an external hard drive. I've got interviews, I've got all sorts. But mainly, I want to respond to a little bit that was said in a live stream that happened overnight my time.
Would you just look at that handsome devil up in the left corner? Just kidding.
And this is on Ryan Fine's Truth's channel. I think DT's also got it on his channel. And look, ultimately, all roads lead back to Ben Hill. I think this case has been in the doldrums for so long, we can't quite believe that this case might be solved. If it is, I'm pretty confident that all roads lead back to Ben Hill. Let's go.
I like that. That's pretty neat.
Before we get into the video, can I just ask, if you're not yet subscribed, please do so. I'm trying to get to 100,000 to a wider audience. Okay.
And yes, go subscribe to her. Also, do share this content. If you haven't shared it on the posts on the Summer Wells Facebook groups and stuff like that, please do so. Let's spread awareness, not just for her, but for me too. And Ryan Finds Truth and Dr. Vona. When we would appreciate it. It'd be great if you guys would do that for us. Thank you. Thank you. Love the new jacket. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Without further ado, this is towards the end of this live stream, and there's a little conversation going on about search dogs. We've talked a lot about search dogs on this channel, not just in this case, but across different cases. And Sheriff Ronnie Lawson did say, and they play the clip in this live stream, dogs tracked Summer scent from the hill down to the road. That's where we're going to start.
I remember hearing about how the dogs tracked Summer from the house area down to the road, and then it stopped at the road. And we recently have started training our dog, and we went to a seminar, and I thought like an idiot, like, well, it's a road, it's concrete, the dog can't smell on concrete. Well, I found out that's not true. Dogs are trained on like several surfaces. They can even track through water. It's a myth that they can't track through water. So I'm like, now, if she had walked on the road, they would have been able to follow her, which means her trail stopped cold at the road.
Not quite. Yes, of course, dogs can track on concrete. They can track on a whole bunch of different surfaces, including, if they're trained to do so, in water. But there's a lot of caveats. And I've said this again and again and again and again. When a dog is trained to man trail, to follow someone's scent, all you're doing is tapping into their natural instinct. Why are they good at tracking? Well, it's to find prey. So if they smell something on the wind that smells like food running around, they air scent until they get a direction and they follow that direction. At some point, they're going to get their nose down and they're going to be hot on that trail. And that scent gets stronger and stronger the closer to the prey they get. Of course, it's obvious. But when a dog is man-trailing, when a dog is following someone's scent because it's trained to do so, it's been given a scent, and in this case, Summer Wells.
I do want to say I am not familiar with like scent dogs and things of that nature. Like I have assisted and been involved in searches and stuff, and been involved in where dogs are used, but I have no experience whatsoever in how they work or don't work. I did look up the information myself, and my experience as far as that goes is as much as Google says, and Google says that a change of surface, going from a like to a softer pavement type or like a smoother surface like the pavement could have an effect on the scent, but that's a possibility. That doesn't mean that Ryan is wrong when he says that the trail stopped cold. Could it have lost the scent? Yes. Or is it possible that she got into a vehicle or she got into something else? I think both possibilities are there. And she goes on a little bit more about it, and we'll discuss as she breaks it down.
Scent. They're still going to be assuming, because it's their natural instinct to think this, that the scent is going to get stronger and stronger. Now, here's the rub. If a dog is tracking on a natural surface, as they would be if they went down the dog trail from the top of the hill to Ben Hill Road, or even on the driveway, so even though the driveway is an artificial surface, there's a lot of mud on it, there's grass down the sides of it, that scent is going to linger there, and the scent is going to get stronger until it hits the concrete road. And then what happens? The scent might still be there, but it's weaker. That confuses the dog, because in their brain, they're assuming that the scent is going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. It doesn't matter how well trained they are. That's their natural instinct, to follow that trail in the direction of travel, because that scent is getting stronger. But once it hits the concrete road, that scent gets weaker, because the scent dissipates so much quicker on artificial surfaces like concrete. So although there might still be scent there lingering around, depending on how long ago the person passed by, it's going to confuse the dog, and they're going to...
I will say that I'm sure that it will be not as strong of a scent, but unless this is a rookie dog, I'm sure it's dealt with the change of surfaces. I'm sure that that's part of their training and things of that nature. This isn't something that is not known to the dog search community. And again, I'm not part of it, so I wouldn't know 100%, but I would believe that if you have a weakness such as the changing of surfaces, that might be something you might implement in the training of the dog. All right, we're going to go through, and this week we're going to really focus in on trying to pick up a scent that may have dissipated a little bit more because of the changing of the surface. And I mean, I think it's only logical that they probably would do some training of that nature. Carrie Moody says, I believe that EquiSearch also spoke about that. Carrie, I've seen some of your material and stuff. In fact, I'm probably going to show a video of yours. Please email me. I'd like to have you on the show, on the panel as well. Truth for JNL. Thank you for the wonderful job you're doing, keeping us informed on the facts and on our missing children. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I hope you got my email earlier about the search. Let's see. All right, let's continue.
Stop. Now, what a good handler will do is they will restart the dog. So we give it a little break and restart the dog at that point. So it's already starting from a point where the scent is weak. It's not going from a strong scent to a weak scent, which is confusing. They're already starting it from a place where that scent is weak, and they'll see whether they can pick up that trail again. Now, Sheriff Ronnie Lawson said this exact thing in an interview. This was the interview with Don Wells, and they also had Sheriff Ronnie Lawson on WVLT News Channel 8.
Our Erica Lunsford walked that trail with Don Wells and sat face-to-face with Sheriff Ronnie Lawson in a WVLT exclusive interview.
Now 114.
I think this is the right one.
So Don says the dogs tracked some scent down the dog trail, which is very much a natural surface. Whether it was a dog trail or driveway, doesn't matter. They end up on Ben Hill Road. A lot of people assume, because the dog lost the scent there, that she was put into a car at that point. However, what you're doing, if you're assuming that, is missing out some important details. And those people new to the case, like DT or maybe DT supporters who don't know this case, you've got to learn the nuances in this case.
I got to learn. Okay.
And you can't cherry pick information.
I agree. Cherry picking things is not right. Neither is manipulating information either. But we'll get to that here in a second.
He says the predator somehow managed to snatch Summer, then raced down the steep hill as she struggled.
I guess you guys want to walk around through here?
I don't believe that a predator came up onto the hill and manhandled Summer down that dog trail. I don't personally believe that. Is it a situation where the parents are genuinely innocent, or were they aware? So you've got two possible scenarios. You've got a wander away just down the hill a little ways and then abducted by someone who knows the area, maybe someone visiting another resident of Ben Hill Road. Scenario 2 is that the parents knew and someone actually came to pick Summer up.
So I think if, based on the information and the information she's about to say, that the parents knew and that somebody came and picked up Summer up, if that be the case, then she's omitting a bunch of the information she's about to talk about, which are footprints here and footprints there. Because, are we to believe that somebody wanted to go and pick Summer up and they decided they were going to do it so covertly that they were going to pick her up at her residence and then go hide through the woods? That doesn't make any sense. If they were going to do this super covertly, it'd probably be done somewhere outside of her residence, right? And so you can't have both worlds there, where you're saying that they had somebody go out there, that person went to their house to pick her up, but then they decide, oh wait, hold on, we got to do this super covertly, so we'll exit out of here through the woods. It doesn't make any sense to do that whatsoever. But let's continue.
But if that's the case, you would assume that maybe they'd come up onto the property. That's very much secondary to me because of the other information that you need to know about.
The trail was not an easy walk. To get down the rugged hill, Wells and I had to hold on to trees. I struggled not to trip or even fall on tree roots.
Yeah, I don't know whether she's got appropriate footwear or not.
So the dogs kind of came down this trail here.
Yeah.
It's pretty steep.
Yeah. I didn't know the dogs even had a trail down through here until the police dogs followed it all the way to the road, gasping for air by the time she got down through here somewhere, because our neighbor heard a scream, a really funny scream. I think I just carried her to a vehicle and threw her in there and took her somewhere far away from here.
Somewhere far away from here, like 9.5 miles away from here.
Ronnie Lawson has not publicly commented on specifics of the case until now. I asked Sheriff Lawson about Wells' claims. Did dogs follow Summer's scent down the trail to the main road? The sheriff says yes.
The dogs had a pretty good trail, a track for a little while, but then it disappeared. But they lost scent it when they come to the road.
So that's a pretty big clue, right? It's not like they had a week. Oh man, I pushed mute. Not. Let me rewind a little bit. I thought I hit pause. So that's a pretty big piece of information, right? That the dogs had a really good trail. That means would some of the scent dissipate on the asphalt? Most likely. But if it was a strong scent to begin with, I mean, it doesn't mean that the scent is going to be completely gone to the point where the dogs are going to be confused and not know where to go. It'd be different if they said that they may have found a very weak scent, or they found a scent that led up to the roadway. But the way he said it, and I'm assuming that's because they know the way their dogs act, is that this was a very strong scent that led to the roadway. So, I'm assuming that a strong scent going into the road or into the asphalt, it's probably still going to have a stronger scent than maybe perhaps a weaker scent that leads up to the roadway. So basically what I'm trying to say is the conditions for the scent to continue on the asphalt were there for the dogs to have. It'd be different if it'd been raining that day. It'd be different if the scent was weak and a bunch of other things. Then I think we would be a little bit more open to the possibility that it was just confused. The animals were confused, or the dogs got lost on the scent. Does that make sense? I hope so.
The trail to the main road, the sheriff says yes.
The dogs had a pretty good trail, a track for a little while, but then it disappeared. But they lost scent it when they come to the road. And sometimes canines, they will lose the scent when it changes to different type, where they maybe went from the gravel to the pavement.
There you go. He's right. Sheriff Ronnie Lawson is right for the reasons I've already explained. Now, here's the thing. The scent dogs didn't stop there. We've heard from Fred Hill, a grandson of Ben Hill. This is Ben Hill, by the way, who the road is named after. At the time of Summer's disappearance, the Hill family had two properties, 165, 167, also down here 207. And he said that a dog picked up scent somewhere in this vicinity. I think it would have been on the Goalies land, and then on his own driveway, and went all the way up to a vehicle.
Now, you know how earlier she said I needed to learn, can't be cherry picking things. Is this really what Fred said, that the scent dog picked up a scent over here? Well, let's find out. Let's find out. Let's pull it up. Here it is. Now,
No.
So am I?
You're the first one. Other than TBI.
Well,
see, even the cadaver dogs have struck all the way up my driveway.
so he said, even let me rewind a little bit. I had it sped up a little bit. He said, even cadaver dogs hit up on my driveway. Now, there's a difference between cadaver dogs and scent dogs. Now, a scent dog looking for a specific scent is following a trail, and had it led to Fred's house, that'd be interesting as well. I agree with that. That would be pretty odd. Now, cadaver dogs is what pick up a scent. The cadaver dogs didn't come out that day. They came out later on, after the several days later, I think, if not sometime later. I believe they were out there in January at one point. And so the cadaver dogs were out there. Cadaver dogs aren't going to pick up a scent from the roadway of somebody that walked, months earlier. That's just impossible for that to have occurred. What they're looking for is for something that's dead, deceased, rotten, right? Now, the interesting thing about this is, why would I thought this was interesting as far as he corrected himself. Everybody's saying he's corrected himself. Well, we'll listen to it. But the one thing that I think of is, to me, I thought that this entire interview was staged, right? And let me tell you why. Like, I'm going to mute it, but well, you know what? I'll keep it up. So when I had Ryan on last night, we were talking about this, and he was saying that, he thought that maybe perhaps Ziggy, who's married to Fred now, was recording this in efforts to, I guess, show the area. But she doesn't really show the area. She doesn't ever say anything like,
it's yucky.
This is anything. She talks about a dog right here, a little puppy.
Hi, puppy. Hi, puppy.
All right. And then I'm going to speed it up a little bit. There's nothing like, if you look over here, there's this. You look over here, there's that. Like, none of those things. She drives right up to him. So she's going straight directly to his home. She's not checking the area out, not looking anywhere to the sides or anything like that. Now, some people say he misspoke. Maybe he didn't. How do we know he misspoke? How do we know that a cadaver dog isn't what hit out there? And this is why I think there's a good possibility of that. So we have, I'm gonna mute it. So you have, in fact, she says there's a light up there. Right there. Let me slow it down now, so that way we can hear it in regular time. So to me, I was like, why what would benefit Fred of staging a video like this? What is it that he wants to get out? Now, maybe he did misspeak and he meant a scent dog, or maybe he didn't. Maybe it slipped. Here's the weird thing. In this interview, he brings up these dogs. I mean, not these dogs, these bones that were found on his property, and that he found these bones, and that, hey, well, let's go find these bones, these carcasses that were just recently found. It sounds like somebody trying to get ahead of some news that might come out. Now, this was taken in January, shortly after the cadaver dogs did go out there and do their search. So was he trying to get ahead of the fact that the cadaver dogs did hit on something on his property by, this is just my speculation. I don't got no evidence of this at all. But what benefit would he have of staging this and then talk about these bones just randomly on this interview and then also talk about cadaver dogs? It sounds to me like he's trying to get ahead of something that might come out. But you guys tell me. Let's listen to this.
I'm scared. No, stay here. Why? Stay here. You got the dog. Huh? Hey. Stay in the car. Hi, puppers. How are you? Are you the one that drove by me the other day while I was standing outside? Oh, okay.
So he recognizes her because I guess she was sitting outside somewhere. I don't know where. And she goes, "Are you the one that drove by me while I was sitting outside?" Now, if this was truly a chance by thing, they didn't happen that day. She said the other day. And so unless this guy's just like, I remember everybody I drive by that's sitting on the side of the road for days at a time, and I can pick you out, while I'm while I'm driving my car, that seems a little bit, I don't know. I don't know if I buy that. You know what I'm saying? This entire thing seems like it's staged. And in my thought process is, what would be his advantage of staging it? Now, he says cadaver dogs hit on his property, and he's also talking about bones being found on his property. I don't think that's a coincidence. Not to mention, there's a search 9 miles away on a property that is somewhat loosely connected to him through family. Go figure. We'll get more into it. Let's break it down.
Are you by chance Fred? Yeah, I'm Fred. Okay. Just the man I've been wanting to see.
If you think it's weird, hit the like button. Just if you think it's weird, hit the like button. If you've already hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I think it's weird.
So Don Wells talks really highly of you, doesn't he? He likes to throw you under the bus, doesn't he?
You see, and then the first thing that she goes up to him and approaches him with is, so Don Wells likes to throw you under the bus. He really likes you. Now, if this was truly a first-time meeting, then he has no idea if he's on Don Wells' side or not on Don Wells' side based off of that. It seems like it's just some other YouTuber or somebody else, content creator, that's coming up wanting to hear more about the case. Like I said, I don't buy that this is by happenstance.
Oh, right off the rip.
Nobody, I've been trying to get a hold of you. Everybody wants to hear from you and what.
Get down, Sissy. Get to the house. Go on.
What
Go
your.
On. Go.
Yeah, I don't care. It's okay. Hey, sorry. I wanted to talk to you that time. You passed me. I was too scared to talk.
I ain't nothing like everybody that's on.
No. So you're the infamous Fred that. Yeah. So why does Don have such a problem with you?
I had no idea. Because I know a lot, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. So what do you know?
Speed gets.
I'm investigating.
You know Chris Tunnel? You know Chris Tunnel? Sandy Creek.
Okay. Oh.
You don't know? Okay.
No, I
don't know nobody. I mean, really. I don't get around much. I stay right here and don't worry travel or nothing.
Let's go to where he talks about. Let's see.
No, you seem like a great, nice guy.
Yeah.
You
and I'm nothing like the rest of them. I mean, that's why they don't like me. Because I'm straight up.
Did the other guy? Did those other group come over here and talk to you?
No.
So am I?
You're the first one. Other than TBI.
Well,
see, even the cadaver dogs that struck all the way up my driveway. But see, Dawn had been here.
Yeah. So you told TBI that.
So now he's saying that the cadaver dogs struck on his driveway, but that Dawn had been there. So if this was the dogs that were searching for a specific scent, what difference would that make that Dawn is there? The point he's trying to make as to why it's cadaver dogs is that Don was there and that maybe perhaps he had the smell of death on him. And because he was there, that's why the dogs hit. That would not make sense if these were specifically like scent dogs. Oh, Don was here, so that's why they hit. Well, Don don't smell like summer, right? Makes sense. You guys, let me know in the comment section. You guys think that makes sense?
Don had been here that day?
Yeah. I mean, the cadaver dog, they was here when talking to me, and they come up the road, and he was hitting about the bridge right there hard. They come up the road and went all the way up to that farther vehicle was on top and was hitting on it. They never even opened the door, but they ain't nothing in. I've looked. But I found some bones earlier today.
You see, now he's going from cadaver dogs to now I found some bones a little bit. So if he goes on to change his story later on and say, oh, I misspoke, that's bull crap. He's lying. This is all surrounded about cadaver dogs and reasoning why they would be striking on his property. He talks about Don Wells being on there. Now he's talking about bones. What difference would bones be, if these were scent dogs looking for summer? So he's not talking about scent dogs. And if he comes out and says, oh, no, I was referencing scent dogs, not cadaver dogs, he is flat out lying based off the information that he's saying right here. Because that does not make sense if you put into perspective of a scent dog. A scent dog would not be following Don to his house and say that was summer scent. A scent dog would not, a scent dog could, hit on the bones too. I mean, I assume that's possible, but that's not what you come up with. He's coming up with excuses for why the cadaver dogs hit on his property. Why is he coming up? Why is he staging this interview? Why is he coming up with this bones and stuff like that? Why is he talking about Don? All of this to explain the cadaver dogs hit on his property. That seems kind of weird to me. I'm not saying he's guilty of anything. There's no charges brought up against him or anybody else here. But at the same time, hit the like button if you think it's weird. That's all I'm saying is this looks weird.
There were the cops over here?
I ain't talking about it.
You found some. Where are they at?
The next driveway down. It looks like they took in, there's a tire been burnt, and then there's some bones laying around there, smaller bones.
Is it close?
A tire had been burnt, and now there's also small dog bones. What is he trying to allude here?
Like where we could walk through it?
Yeah.
Where you could show me?
This next driveway down.
Will you show me? Or okay.
I mean, I don't know what it is. It could be animal or whatever.
Well,
but
yeah.
Did you say you saw any shoulder blade bones and rib bones and stuff like that, backbone? It just don't look right to me. But there's no skull.
So it's way down there.
This next driveway.
How far is that?
About.
Okay, well we'll go over there in a
500
second.
feet or something other down the road.
Wow, so
on this hallway.
it's probably an animal, right? Or it could be.
It could be, but
it could. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it.
Well, I'll look. I'll check it. Yeah, we'll check it out. If I feel like it's like, I'll call if you're afraid to.
Yeah, I will call and talk.
And then the weird thing is here, right? So he talks about Don going over and trying to hook him up or get hooked up with some drugs and stuff like that. And he's like, I don't do that. And then short time after this, I believe he gets arrested. He's on probation right now for selling drugs, but definitely a liar. He also says something to the effect that somebody had accused him of assault by sexual assault, that somebody accused him of that. I think it's around the 16-minute mark. If my memory serves me correct.
Supposed to meet me today,
because it was odd. When she went missing, they usually won't talk to nobody. They stay up on the hill and stuff. But as soon as she went missing, they didn't leave that road down there. They stayed down there for 3 days, day and night. They're trying to hear everything that's being said. I mean, it just made me feel like he's
paranoid.
Yeah.
She doesn't want anybody to
the fourth day, he takes off Knoxville and don't come back for over a month. And they get a restraining order against each other and everything. It doesn't make sense.
So they aren't really together. They're not together anymore.
No.
So she's telling the truth about that.
Yeah.
Where is she living at right now?
I'd say she's with her mom.
Where's her mom with?
I think I'd actually passed it. It may have been a little bit before that, about the 15-minute mark.
I'm about half deaf, and I about have to watch somebody's lips.
Yeah. So what do you think about?
You know what? I know how to find it. So I'm not, wasting all this time going back and forth. Let's just look up the transcript. Pretty simple. Shows transcript, F3 this, boom. RAPE. Yeah, here it is. Easy way to find this, right?
She was saying 20-something
Yeah, she tried to do say I tried to rape her and stuff, and only thing I done was give her a ride home from the club. She was so messed up, keep from her getting me.
So there you go. I mean, there's a lot of accusations against this guy. He shot a person in the neck. There was a missing person named Cotton that he was under investigation for as well. Apparently, he had sold him some drugs, and then he ends up being found dead at the bottom of a cliff. And so there's a lot of weirdness that go along this Fred guy, who, by the way, is a neighbor and has some family ties to the property that was recently searched. I'm not saying this guy did anything at all, but some just don't seem right. Some don't seem right. Let's go back to what Michelle After Dark had to say.
On his driveway. Look, Fred has said an awful lot. You can choose to believe Fred or not, but it's intriguing why he would say that. And then the footprints. We've known about the footprints since very early on in the case, because the owner of this land was talking on Facebook until people started attacking him, and then he took all his posts down, but not before people screenshotted. And I've got a lot of these screenshots. He was replying a lot. So I'm going to read just a couple of these.
All right, let's look at these footprint stuff. Now, I don't have the footprints documented here, but let me, from what I understand is, and she'll say it too, that there was one footprint, a solo print by itself, barefooted, and then about 3/4 of a mile away, there was another footprint. The only problem I have with the footprints, I know a lot of people are going to tell me, well, Daniel, in the Jack and Lily case out there in Nova Scotia, you hold the footprints to a high order there. I do, because those footprints are more likely to have been Jack and Lily's. They're in the middle of nowhere, about almost 2 miles away on a pipeline where it's not well traveled or anything like that. And these kids weren't known to get out and walk around on their own and things of that like that. So it's a pretty good distance away. When it comes to Summer Wells's footprints, I believe she pointed out to be one around like right here where it says Beach Creek. Well, let's measure it out. How far is that? From her house there, it's about 400 yards, about 4 football fields. There's a lot of video of her running around barefoot throughout this entire area. It's about half a kilometer, not even half a kilometer. And if we went to miles, we're looking at a 1/4 mile away. That's not very far from her house. And for somebody that ran around and barefooted through up and down those, the wooded area, is there any way of telling that those footprints were in fact, from that day? I don't know. And then Michelle After Dark says that there's like a path here, I guess, that leads to the roadway, and that somebody could have driven off at this point. Problem with that is, if they came this direction towards the road, Fred's house is down here. How does she account for Fred's house in the scent? And I put that in quotations because we already know that was a cadaver dog that hit on his property, and that's what he was talking about, not the scent dog. And so, how do you account for all the scents and stuff out here? So kind of like when you were telling me you can't cherry pick things, same thing back here. You know what I'm saying? Plus, are we really to believe that somebody parked a vehicle out here and then did what, like walked all the way around, walked through the hills just to kidnap Summer and then come all the way back to the vehicle here? That makes a little sense too, as well. To me, the most probable explanations are that Summer wandered off of the property or out of the house. I think that's probably a given there at this point. If the parents aren't involved, you always got to keep that as a possibility that the parents did something. I think it would be really easy to figure out for law enforcement if Don is lying about where he was, if he was at work and all this other stuff. He claims he has 7 alibis. What I think he means by that is that his phone is alibying him. There's probably cameras out there somewhere between his residence and where he was working over an hour away or 52 miles away. So those probably are his alibis. His internet searches and stuff like that is another alibi. And what that means is they're able to his phone too. They're able to put, geofence or GPS, his location. And so, although we don't know for a fact where he was, fairly positive law enforcement does. And so for law enforcement, it would have been easy to, arrest or figure out if Dawn is lying or not. Summer, on the other hand, Candace, on the other hand, is a little bit more difficult because we know that she was with Summer. It's not like she was supposedly somewhere else. She was with her. So there's a lot of possibilities there when it comes to that. And so let's see. And I don't, Cratchit says, I think he means 7 people saw him at work. I think somebody did see him at work, but he also, he has there's a Don Wells family YouTube channel where he's done some podcasts on there. And one of the things he said was that his phone and I guess his internet is what alibied him, or his searches, GPS, were 2 of the alibis. And so, but somebody else seeing him, definitely, if he had somebody else that saw him, that's definitely true. Let's see. Oh, and the Fred Hill interview that I'm talking about is this one that we're listening to with Ziggy. This is the Fred Hill. So some people are saying Fred Hill interview. This is the interview that we're talking about. I only have 100 characters, guys, in the title, and so I can only put so many words. I'm at 99 on it, so I can't put breakdown also in there. So I apologize if you guys think it's a little bit clickbaity. It's not. We're listening to Fred Hill's interview, and I'm explaining to you guys why I think there's some red flags. Hit the like button, guys, if you think there's some red flags. All right, so let's go back to.
So this is Mr. Phillips talking. I was informed by deputies to make sure when I post anything, I explain it in full detail so there's no way anyone could misinterpret it. Oh, people will. Someone got confused over me calling a footprint physical evidence and blew their phone lines up thinking it was new evidence. So I'm being very precise here. 2 footprints, child size, barefoot, not my kids' prints. 1 on my land, 1 on my neighbour's. That doesn't want their name or location mentioned. Well, it's Mary Sexton's land, who is Don Wells' stepdad's sister. She's no longer alive. She died a couple of years back. So there were footprints on her land as well. If you watch my video from a couple of days ago, you'll hear an interview from the PIs who've been working on the case for a while. And they believe that the footprints are relevant to the investigation and the direction of travel. Now, I don't know whether footprints are leading this way or leading this way, but if they're leading out, I suspect someone was taken, perhaps, I don't know, from Fred Hill's property, maybe, possibly, and led through the woods, so not going by the road, and then put in a vehicle at this point, somewhere around here. And this area is where searchers came back to again and again and again and again and again.
Well, I mean, if the footprints are there, I would definitely be searching that area. Yeah, you can't not look at the footprints and say that they're not possibly from that time frame, right? As much as I said that, they could have easily have been from the day before, from the week before. They could have easily been from that day. I don't discredit them at all. I just think that when we look at the footprints, we also have to take everything into consideration, including the recent search about 9.5 miles away. And, how does that search, which it sounds like, and I mean, I know there's no confirmation here, but it sounds like a lot of dirt was removed from the property. Those type of scenarios usually typically mean a remains type of search for what it is. And, how does one go from walking through the woods there to that residence? And again, that residence does have some family ties to Fred Hill and some other folks, which Fred Hill, in that interview that we were, discussing or showing a minute ago, he talks about letting Andy go through the area. So he's like, yeah, I know that Andy was in the area because I let him through. It just kind of seemed like just like he was kind of bringing up excuses for why the cadaver dogs hit. Oh, Don was here. There's some bones there. There's this, there's that. He's just trying to find another reason why there are other people that could have been involved. He's throwing these names out there. And when it comes to Andy, from what I understand, is that there's video footage of him at work at that time. And so I don't know if Fred's just misremembering and thinking about another day, perhaps, or he's, coming off as trying to come up with explanations for other people being in the area that could have been responsible for something. That's just the way it comes off to me.
Dave Rader from EquiSearch even said searchers believed when those footprints were found on the 19th of June, so someone had been missing 4 days at that point, and they did an all-night search, they believed someone had abducted her and brought her back, and she was wandering around the woods on her own.
How does she know that? That law enforcement believed that she was abducted and then brought back? Now, the other possibility that I did think of when I was talking with Ryan and Dr. Vona last night was that, and there's been a lot of speculation about a guy named Randy Hill, who is a tree trimmer, and there was tree trimmers in the area. And there's also a Ziggy interview with tree trimmers mentioning a Randy who on that day screwed up and hit a power line or a guide line, ended up getting fired for it. He was out there and supposedly he recognized Summer's grandmother and mom and Summer in the vehicle that morning. So to me, that said a few things, right? That said that the person was probably a local. It wasn't somebody from out of state, for them to recognize the people that live in the back there. And, is it possible that a out of state tree trimmers, subcontracted part of their tree trim to other tree trimmers from the area? It's not an uncommon thing to get subcontractors to go out and finish or do a job. So it's very plausible. Now, is it possible that, Summer hears the tree trimmers, gets curious, walks out of the back, door down the trail and approaches a tree trimmer that may be outside there, on the roadway there, and something happens, maybe perhaps an accident. Maybe it doesn't even have to be something that's like sexual in nature or anything like that. It could have been as much as an accident, cutting a tree trim, a limb, the limb falls down and hits her or something of that nature. They panic, put her in the car, take off. Maybe he's on drugs, maybe something else. And he doesn't want that to, if he's doing drugs, and he's out there tree trimming and a kid gets hurt, he's liable. There's a lot of things that possibly could have happened in that scenario, or backs up the vehicle and she falls, hits her head. There's so many things, but isn't it? I think it's plausible that she did wander off and then an accident occur and then they take her off, and it just so happens to be this Randy Hill that, resided very closely. Possible. What I don't think happened is this, that somebody abducted them and then brought her back and let her go in the woods. That doesn't make sense.
That's what.
And I don't think Michelle After Dark agrees with that either. And again, please go subscribe. I'm just responding to what she's saying. I have no disrespect towards her. I really would like to have her on the channel. Please, let's get her up to 100,000 subscribers. But I just wanted to put my 2 cents on a couple of things that she's saying.
They searched again and again and again in this area, but they didn't find her. Anyway, I do not want my location shown either. He no longer lives there, so it's not relevant now. Search dogs barked on my land. Deputy asked me questions about my kids' shoe sizes. I asked if the dog's barking meant it was her scent. He said yes. Said it had to be a recent print left after she disappeared. Informed him my kids are never barefoot in the woods. Prints are about 3/4 of a mile or so apart. The print in my yard behind a ridge, so not where we would have seen anyone. Next print was further up a ridge near another neighbour's house. Not sure which print was left first, so no clue which direction she was going. He was responding to people's comments as well. So someone says, I heard search dogs were all over the place. Neighbour said her scent was found in his yard and woods next to him. That was from the neighbour's mouth. And Mr. Phillips replies, yes, a barefoot child's footprint that the dogs identified are scent in my woods and the neighbour's woods. No other scent or footprints were found. Just my...
To me, if the footprints belonged to Summer and they were created during the disappearance and they were responsible for her disappearance, or not responsible, but they were a part of the disappearance, that clears Dawn and Candace to me, because we would have to believe that, and again, this is kind of what I had said earlier, we would have to believe that Dawn and Candace set up somebody to come over to pick up Summer, but they wanted to do it covertly enough that they had the assailant either get there through the woods and then leave through the woods, or drive up in there and leave through the woods. Either way, they had the person go to their house. It doesn't sound very covert if that's going to be the situation. If you're going to end up, handing off your child to somebody else, I don't think handing them off and forcing her to walk somewhere where she can easily run away or those type of things and then create more problems. If you're, legal problems for the persons who are selling or whatever the case may be, it doesn't make any sense that they would do all this covert stuff and have the handoff be at the house. Don't make sense. And if it was just her wandering off, could she have made it 9 miles away? 100%. I mean, that's another thing that a lot of people aren't looking at. I do think that there is roads and there's a lot of things in between there that maybe would have been familiar, that would have helped her get back home. But I mean, if it was a while and she hadn't, she got lost for a few days and, hadn't eaten or drank or anything, became delirious or whatever the case may have been, her at a very young age, she could have easily been confused and gone the wrong way and continue to go the wrong way. And something happened. But I put that on a very low possibility just because I don't understand how a search, with TBI, FBI, and local law enforcement at the Van Hill residence comes about something like that. Like if they would have randomly found remains and it looked like she came to wandering off and being out in the wilderness. So it's just the puzzle pieces don't fit right for me for that.
Opinion with nothing else to base it on, but that sounds like she was being carried and was set down to make it through a rough area. You would expect more prints if she was walking. Yes, search crews have been all over my land for several days before the footprint was found, so there were already plenty of adult footprints there. You can't cherry pick information. You've got to take all of the information that we have, and I'm sure that the information we do have is only a fraction of what the cops have by now. The ghost of Ben Hill strikes again.
I agree that we probably know a fraction compared to what law enforcement do.
Somebody knew this area well enough. Somebody was able to take Summer away without being seen, not going by roads, but hiding behind ridge lines and taking her out, and then they were away. Now, would you need to do that if the parents knew what was going down? Maybe. But you have to take this information into account. You have to incorporate this information into any theory that you're developing because it's strong. It's strong information. Leslie Earhart never replied to my tweet. I asked her in a tweet about the footprints. She never replied. On the 21st of June at a press conference, she was asked and she just said they were following up on a lead relating to the all-night search on the 19th into the 20th of June. So someone who knows this area well, Fred Hill wanders all around that area. The nephew of Paul Hill, whose property they searched, and they announced to the world that they'd searched in the 3500 block of Van Hill Road, 9.5 miles away from here. Are the sons the connection? Tree trimmer connection? Somehow, some way? Is that relevant? We know that the FBI were led there to that property because they tracked down the Toyota Tacoma and it had evidence in it. Now, what that evidence was, I don't know.
I've never heard that before. Is that true? Now, I'll be honest. I think this is like the first time I go all the way. I only saw like half of the video, or a little bit more than half of the video. Is that why the FBI was out there? Was because of they tracked the Tacoma there? Now I know there's pictures of red trucks and stuff out there, but in another interview, or not in another interview, was let me pull it up. We were talking about this last night. Let me pull it up. I think I have a picture of it. I do have a picture of it. Oh man, I love it when things come together quick. All right. I highly doubt Paul Hill has anything to do with it. I'm sure he was questioned about the red truck because he had one and actually sold it to my husband years ago. It looked like nothing like the truck posted, other than it's red and a Toyota truck. It's also pretty beaten up from where he used it farming hogs and whatnot. TBI already asked us and investigated that truck. So they've already asked and talked about this. And this is from somebody who purchased said truck, and they were investigated and talked about. So that tells me a couple of things. That tells me, one, law enforcement have already been onto this property and the red truck for a while, but it wasn't immediate because it was enough time for him to sell it. So, take that for what it is. It was something that they found out, but not immediate, because they questioned it after they sold it, but it's something that they've known about. I'm assuming this wasn't recent. I'm assuming that this search, the way it sounds, happened some time ago. So what happened? Something must have happened in order for law enforcement to now come out with the search. Now, the rumor is that there are some brothers that live there, and one of the brothers, tipped off the FBI, right, about something. Don't know what, don't know how true it is, but that's kind of what the rumor is.
Yeah. Are the sons the connection? Tree trimmer connection? Somehow, some way? Is that relevant? We know that the FBI were led there to that property because they tracked down the Toyota Tacoma, and it had evidence in it. Now, what that evidence was, I don't know, but it led them to the 3500 block of Van Hill Road, to Paul Hill's property. Paul Hill being a son of Ben Hill, being the uncle of Fred Hill, being the great uncle of Andy Bernard. All roads lead back to Ben Hill, but specifically why, well, that remains to be seen. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget Cold Case Christmas as well, episode 3 tonight.
Cold Case Christmas. Let's go make sure you follow Michelle After Dark. In fact, I'll do the same. Subscribe. There you go. And so go follow her. She's getting close. I think she's got 98.7. So she's about 1,200 folks away from getting to the magic number there. And let's see. Let's go back to the interview real quick. And then I wanted to point out, well, you know what? Let's point out some of the footsteps. And this is from Carrie Moody's channel. She's in the live chat. Go check her out as well.
The thing is, okay, that you got to keep in mind is the police dog that went straight down, followed her scent straight down the trail to Ben Hill Road. And Cam proved that you could carry a 50-pound sack of potatoes down that trail, I think, under a minute.
Yeah.
Then lost the trail.
I don't think that's what happened.
Lost the scent at the road there. Okay.
That's yours with the red dot right there.
Okay, got you.
So if we come down here on Beach Creek, here's where that shed is.
Down that way. Yes, exactly.
You're talking about. This is where I go. Okay.
Well, I didn't know it's called Simpson Road.
So this is Simpson Loop back here. Simpson Road is the one that comes up when you go back here. So let me go back here where your red dot. If you come down your driveway right here.
Yep.
You come up through here. You turn up towards Mary Sexton's house. That's Simpson Road. So that it dead ends, but it because of a gate, right?
Yeah.
Right here.
Yep.
Okay, and then it comes on down here. So
that's the road I've been up 100 times.
Right.
Up on top of that hill right there.
So Josh's land would be right here.
That hill right there overlooks our property.
this is where I found the campsite. You want to talk? This is where I'm going to put a.
Yeah, to me, it just seems like Don's thing is that he feels like somebody was watching them for some time. I mean, even Hunter says that in the interview with Chris McDonough, that Don had called and said there was some pervert that was watching the kids that was standing up there or whatever. So, you know, Don has this in his head that somebody had been watching and had their eye on her. If this is true, you know, if there was some sort of pervert out there watching and lived in an angle or had access to an angle that could watch over the property, you know, you can't rule that out. You know, I mean, a lot of people thought in the Brian Koberger case that it was going to be the ex-boyfriend, it was going to be this guy, or it was the hoodie guy, or it was somebody at the grub truck, all these other places. And in the end, it ended up being a PhD student studying criminology from the town over that nobody knew or heard about before. And he was stalking, and these girls had little evidence. You know, they had seen certain things. They had seen, you know, somebody standing out in the shadows at you know, late at night one time. Kaylee saw that. You know, they came home on 2 occasions with their door open, but nothing concrete, nothing that would have said that somebody was stalking them to the point that they were going to have their lives taken by a knife in the middle of the night at 4 a.m. after a good night out. You know, I think that the possibility of something like that happening is small. Just like I think the possibility of that happening in Moscow was small, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible. You know, if somebody had a vehicle parked up here, you know, could that be if they were watching and they saw Summer walk out? Could they have gone out there and taken her and forcibly walked her back, you know, around here? I think it's possible. Now, one thing that Michelle After Dark mentioned was that, you know, that they may have walked all the way back here and gone through this area and escaped here. And I did get to thinking to myself, like, why would, you know, somebody do that? It must be because they've done some sort of reconnaissance and know where all the cameras are. Well, here's a little video of Fred Hill going around showing where all the cameras are on Ben Hill.
Camera location on Ben Hill.
He said camera location on Ben Hill.
145.
And so this is him going around and showing them. Again, this doesn't mean anything. You know, in the end, he is trying to help, sort of. I mean, he's putting out this information. He's, you know, the YouTuber Ziggy is trying to put out information about Summers and bring awareness and stuff about Summer and bring awareness and stuff like that. So, you know, to a certain extent, you got to say, all right, well, I mean, he is going out there and
Location at 165.
You know, and helping, you know, and to the contrary, I know some people might say, well, he's inserting himself in the case, which is sometimes something that folks do that are involved in a case that have not yet been discovered. You know, very plausible on both ends. I know that the PI said that he doesn't believe Fred committed the crime and was surprised about the search. So that tells me that he didn't tip off law enforcement about the search, if he's telling the truth. You know, I know a lot of people said that they believe that he was the one that tipped off law enforcement. I don't know, maybe he did tip off law enforcement. So did Richard Allen. Richard Allen left a tip with Delphi, didn't he? That tip ended up coming back and biting him in the rear end, but maybe that's what happened. And maybe it's something completely different. I have no idea. One thing that Michelle After Dark was 100% correct about is that I am new to this case, and I'm trying to break it down, and I'm trying to figure it all out, and maybe not figure it out to like solve the case, because that's not, I don't have all the information to do that. More so to give you guys accurate information, more so that I make sure that I kind of combat some of the false narratives that may be out there. I mean, I've only seen a few, but to me, I think there's some red flags here. You know, I know recently there was an email that was put out there that was circulating that made it seem like Fred was cleared. And I believe his sister was going around telling people that she got that letter and that, that's it, or that email. Nobody should look at Fred. He's no longer a suspect. And then come to find out, it sounds like that email may not be accurate. I don't know whether it is or not, but a lot of folks seem to believe that it's referencing the other person that I mentioned before, Cotton, who was missing and Fred was a suspect of, that it might be referencing that case. I don't know. I couldn't tell you one way or the other, but let's take some of your questions. Let's do some Q&A. Answer your questions, put a couple of stars so I know that you're talking to me and not to each other. And then I'll end the show probably the next 10 minutes, but let's do a little quick 10-minute Q&A. Put a couple of stars. If you asked a question here recently, like in the last 3 minutes or so, I'm going to go up a little bit, but if it's been longer than that, re-ask, put a couple of stars so I know you're talking to me. All right. Did the evidence in the truck statement made from LE or just a rumor that continued? I have never heard that until tonight. I heard that for the first time, that it was, give me 1 second, guys. I need to mute y'all. Sorry about that. My mic was giving me some feedback. I don't know if you guys were hearing it, but I wanted to make sure you weren't. But as far as I know, this is the first time I personally ever heard of this, that it was the truck that led the FBI to that house. I'm not aware of that being the case. Let's see. Robin actually bought it after Summer disappeared. I thought Don City saw people searching at the top around, so he went down to the shed. Sounds logical to me. He would search where you don't see people searching. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Let's see. I know a lot of folks here are talking back and forth with each other, so that's why it's kind of hard for me to pick out which ones you're asking me. Yeah, it wasn't to Robin. It was to somebody else. I don't really want to put them all on blast, but I think their name was Cassandra. Dawn is a highly deceptive individual. Yeah. And to me, like, I have no idea what Dawn has done or isn't done or is capable of or not capable of. Candace for that as well. I think that a lot of the things that they say are super suspicious, super odd. I just think that law enforcement would have been able to figure out Dawn's location fairly simple. I think they would have been able to figure out a timeline. I think they would have been able to figure out if there was actual, panic amongst, like, for instance, Candace and maybe even Candace's mom when they discovered that Summer was missing based on the locations of the phone. And the way you can do that is through the GPS. Now, I know that a lot of people will think about triangulation and advanced call timing records, and those are good pieces of information, but they're limited as far as accuracy goes. So if you're looking at triangulation in an area that's not very good with service and there's not a lot of towers out there, you're going to get a wildly inaccurate location, something about, it could be 10 to 15 miles wide. But once you get the phone and you get that GPS from the phone, you got like 3 meters of accuracy. And so we would expect to see her running around the property looking for her at a certain point. That's going to give you your real baseline of when they discovered that she was missing. And that's going to give you a timeline. And then you got some video and some surveillance as Fred Hill went around the area and showed that there was cameras in the area. So that kind of does lead me to believe that if something did happen and somebody had to get out of there, even if it was by an accident, they would have had to have had they would have been aware enough to know that there's cameras in the area and then to avoid them. That means that somebody would have had to have had pre-knowledge of it. And to me, again, this screams out a crime of opportunity if there is a crime here and she didn't wander off. And crime of opportunity and those type of things don't usually come with, scouting out the place, seeing where all the cameras are and stuff. Now, if Don is true that there was some creep that was hanging around up at the hill and, watching people, that person may have scouted out, where the cameras are and stuff like that, just like Brian Koberger did. So got to put, weigh those two things out. Let's see. Susie Q says the boys being removed to McDonough, showing us the rough house, to the television interview on Dr. Phil and behavioral panel. This family has been criticized for their poverty. I agree that a lot of people look at their poverty, but at the same token, having the filth on the TV, the Girls Gone Wild and stuff, that has nothing to do with poverty or things like that. I believe that there's been it sounds like there's been a lot of moments where he's been drinking and stuff. Now, a lot of people will look at his actions after the fact and the fact that he drank and he got, drunk and belligerent in places. But he's also a person, let's just say, he's 100% innocent of everything. And, when it comes to Summer, a man losing his daughter that way can drive him to drink, can drive him to a lot of things. A woman too. It's not just specific to a man, but, a parent, losing their child can be driven to a lot of things, whether it's drugs, alcohol, numerous of different crutches to deal with the grief and the pain of what they're going through. So, we got to take that into consideration as well. But yeah, 100%. I think a lot of people look at the poverty aspect of their lives and think that, they're living in a house that doesn't look like mine. I would never have my kids in a house like that. And not realizing that they aren't in their situation financially and stuff too. And again, there's so many what ifs here, right? Because we're not them. Right. Are they in poverty because, it's just low income, jobs are hard to find, blah, 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 blah. Or is it because they're spending their money on things they shouldn't, like smack and drugs and stuff? There's a lot of questions here. We just don't know the answers. And I don't think it's right in any case to just kind of, accuse without knowing all the answers, so to speak. Let's see. Couple of stars, guys. So you're talking to me. Ryan comes in. Dan, good to see you, Ryan. Seeing Don pushing the abduction scenario so hard gives me a pause. Does that bother you at all? Not necessarily. Confirmation bias is real. I've seen in multiple cases where because of a certain set of pieces of evidence that they know, regardless of what else comes in, they see it from that light. I use an analogy to a hammer. Everything's a nail. When it comes to I'll use Jack and Lily as an example when it comes to some of the reasons why Malaya and Daniel feel the way they feel. Now, I've never spoken to Don and Candace, so I can't speak on their behalf. But when it comes to Daniel and Malaya, I've spoken with Daniel, and basically what he's told me is that ground search rescue was not that far away, which they weren't. They were there pretty quick. They had drones, helicopters, thermo. They searched the woods extensively and had searched it multiple times. And in that time, they believe that how fast they had gone missing and how quickly they got there, had they been in the woods, they would have been found. And so regardless of whatever comes up, there's always an excuse, because he believes, based on other pieces of information, that one scenario exists despite any of the evidence that comes out. And when it comes to, Dawn and Candace, I wouldn't be surprised if they have certain information and or if they perceive certain pieces of evidence in one manner that has had them tunnel vision into that one sole possibility. And so, could it be something? Could it not be? To me, I think that if you are a person who committed a crime and you want to get away with it, unless you place the body in the woods, you're going to want to tell people that's where she's at. Because it's, you know, I think I would be more like, not necessarily suspicious, but I think that if he was pushing, no, she wandered off, nobody did anything, there's no abduction, no nothing, you know, by him going down this road that somebody else has her, leaves it open that he's also like responsible for that as well, you know, whether it was setting it up or whatever the case may be. You know, could it be something? Maybe. Could it not be? Maybe. At this point, I don't see it one way or another as a pause. Gary says, in hindsight, I think the PI was saying Fred was cleared because of the email gate and it didn't look. That's interesting. I tried reaching out to the PI to have him on the show. He hasn't responded back. Let's see. Hey, what's going on, Barbara Hall? Miss Hall is another person that I've spoken with. She's another victim's family member. Guys, I know that the videos aren't up on YouTube anymore, but on Spotify, if you go search up Drunk Turkey Show, look up Timothy Dees. That's a very, very weird case. You know, in that case, Timothy went missing after he called 911 to say that his friend was trying to harm him or was threatening him. He was in a city where he only knew one person. That call originated right outside of that person's house. That guy's name is Caleb Nanny. And Caleb Nanny ends up getting arrested later on for an unrelated warrant and a gas drive-off that him and Timothy had done the night before. We had recently, we being me and, well, mainly Steve from True Crime Web, who's the former CSI, were able to uncover Facebook messages, and Caleb Nanny, who was supposedly this guy's, you know, Timothy D's best friend. This guy told Barbara Hall, told law enforcement, told everybody, man, I'm going to find him as soon as I get out, because he was in jail for like 40 days. As soon as I get out, I'm going to find him. I'm going to find him. We were able to get into their Facebook messages. This guy's last message to Timothy D's was, I'm going to F you up. And this was 8 o'clock the day that he disappeared. About 40 minutes later, Timothy D's debit card is possibly used at an ATM, and an error is written with the PIN because they didn't know the PIN code. Caleb Nanny gets arrested. Now, his paperwork says that he got arrested at 9, which that ATM transaction happens at 9:11. And so that's kind of what he's been saying. Hey, I mean, it couldn't have been me, right? Unfortunately for him, we were able to uncover some text messages at 10 a.m. where he's messaging his friends about the gas drive-off that he's about to get arrested for and asking for money prior to his arrest. Our pressure into this case has forced, and it's crazy, but it forced the sheriff there to submit a picture to Miss Hall about the arrest, which is weird. He got arrested for a gas drive-off, and somehow the sheriff of the local department took a picture of him getting arrested and being placed in handcuffs for a gas drive-off. Why is the sheriff even there at a gas drive-off call? But he's the one taking the picture. And the crazy thing about it, when you look at the info about the picture, it's taken at 10:10 a.m., completely an hour afterwards. Now, I don't necessarily believe that the law enforcement had something to do with Timothy's death, but that area is also known. This is in Frederickstown, Missouri, known for a lot of drugs and stuff. Now, the weird thing about this case here is Barbara talked to law enforcement and tried to get the 911 tape, try to get the video from the ATM, which was turned over to the chief of police, and try to get surveillance video or body cam footage from the chief of police. And all of those things were destroyed in separate lightning strikes. And that's per the law enforcement. Now, Timothy D's body and remains was found 5 months after he was called 911. So he was found and located. And when his remains were found, there was a tooth missing. When his body gets back to the coroner, and this is documented, there's pictures of his skull that we have. And when his body gets back to the coroner, his tooth is back in his skull. Now, the only reason why somebody would do that is so that the coroner doesn't have a reason to put foul play. Because if he's missing teeth and things of that nature, you got to explain those things. And not to mention that Timothy's body was found on a sitting judge's property in a tree line. And there's one other caveat. There was cadaver dogs that were sent out into the area. They actually hit on a storage shed that was about 200 yards away from Timothy's body, where it would eventually be found. That shed belonged to a police officer. Now, it was multiple storage sheds, and that's the only one they chose not to search, mainly because it belonged to a police officer. Now, I don't believe in coincidences. And here recently, we posted up some footage of Caleb Nanny and his audio conversations with law enforcement that were gathered through the Sunshine Act. And these are FOIA requests. Myself and 2 other channels have had those videos taken down. I suspect it's by law enforcement. Law enforcement doesn't want this story out, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to redo those things and I'm going to re-put them out. I would appreciate it if everybody shares Timothy D's story. Caleb Nanny tells law enforcement when they're asked how much money did old boy have, did Timothy have? He says, I don't know. They asked him in another interview after he's released from jail, because the first one was while he was in jail. They asked him again after he was released from jail in a separate interview, how much money did he have? He doesn't know. But what he doesn't understand, this guy doesn't figure out, is that in an interview with a conversation with his sister that he had while in jail, which is recorded, by the way, everybody should know that, he tells his sister Timothy had $160 on him, which is the exact amount that he took out of the ATM that night. So he lied to law enforcement 2 different times, before and afterwards. Now, again, to me, I think that if anything, I think law enforcement is involved in something shady here. I think maybe they're involved. There's somebody there that doesn't want an investigation into the area to happen. I don't think law enforcement had anything to do with Timothy's death, but I think they're concerned that investigating somebody that may have been responsible for his death could open up a can of worms into their department, into perhaps something very nefarious. But the other really weird thing is that sitting judge's wife, and one of the things that Barbara Hall wanted was the body cam footage that showed the sitting judge's wife telling Barbara Hall, whose son's body was found on her property, that you're never going to find out what happened to your son. And now everything gets taken down. I personally think law enforcement in that town is what's behind it. But they're not going to stop us from getting the truth out, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell, because I'm going to be bringing that back out here pretty soon. Thank you, Ms. Hall, for being here. Answer a few more questions. What is benchmark for a judge to sign off on a search warrant? They are handed out haphazardly. That's what I said. I mean, you don't need to get, when it comes to like a warrant and stuff, it's less than an indictment. It's, probable cause, right? So you just have to have suspicion and be able to articulate a reason to search. So let's see, a couple more questions. Got that one. Dan, do you ever watch interviews with Dave Rader and Twyla Sitko from Texas EquiSearch? From the beginning, when they search and their interactions with the wells? I have not. Please send me that. I would like to see that. Carrie goes, they are bad people, but the evidence we do have, just don't point that for me. Dan sat in county jail for like 8 months. They could have found out things then, but they didn't. That's a good point. That is a good point. Yeah, let's get Michelle After Dark up to 100K. Don fired an employee the day before, so he was alone. He took Subaru for alibi, Starlink, put the phone down on the job. How do you trace Don if he had Lyft or left the construction site. Well, he didn't though, right? Because there was searches on there, and there was phone calls that were made, and so it's more than just one, putting something down, putting the phone down, and then it not moving, right? I mean, that would be obvious, for law enforcement. They're like, hey, this phone doesn't move for 4 hours. For 3 hours. Because he would have had to have left for an extended period of time to go and then come back, right? Go do whatever it is that he was doing, and then go all the way back to Jonesboro, which is over an hour away, and hope that there is no cameras that catch him going in between there. And so that's a lot of ifs. And I reckon had they found the phone stationary and not moving for multiple hours, and they see his video on or his truck on camera, his vehicle on camera or whatever, going back and forth, I mean, that's that's some strong circumstantial evidence to start to build a case against him. Ronnie Lawson asked Candace why she waited 4 hours to call. I mean, that's a good question. I don't know about the whole timeline stuff. It sounds like it's confusing from from Summer's parents' perspective. But I'm pretty sure law enforcement has a pretty good idea of when it is that they got home, when it is that Candace walked over to the camper, when it is that she began to panic, if she left, if she didn't, those type of things. All right. Who is the private investigator? Jen Jensen, I think is his name. Jen Jensen, something like that. Family was messed up before Summer went missing. I think so. It could be as simple as he just didn't think Summer would wander off in that way. So abduction would be the most plausible scenario to the parent. I don't think it would be the first guess, though. I mean, it just kind of depends, right? I mean, was it his first guess? Did he come out and saying somebody abducted them, like when he called 911? Or was that something that he thought of after all the searches and everything else started coming up as a bunch of goose eggs? You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah. No, the Timothy D's case is insane. Please go check it out on my Spotify. I have videos about it. I mean, I'm not even giving it justice in that quick rundown that I did. There are so many things that are said and so many things that are done. Law enforcement document indicate that they arrested Caleb Nanny at 9 a.m. I have the document from law enforcement. I also have a picture from the sheriff when they arrested him showing 10:10 a.m. They fabricated over an hour and 10 minutes. Why? No idea. The ATM camera that was turned over to the chief of police, the 911 call, the video surveillance or the body cam footage from the chief of police there, all struck in different lightning strikes. It's insane. You can't make this up. And then I had another person reach out to me, and he got beaten. He got arrested and he got beaten by the same law enforcement department. And when he asked for their body cam footage of his beatdown, guess what happened to it? It was struck by lightning. It is insane. It is insane. It is the most wildest thing ever. Yeah, no problem, Ms. Hall. We're going to get that back going up for you. We're going to apply pressure because that case needs to be solved. Why'd I leave LE? I had a serious back injury, and then I had a pretty awesome job opportunity come up. And long story short, I end up opening up a couple of businesses. I do some real estate now, and law enforcement don't pay much. Let me put it that way. And then when you can't really do anything. So long story short, I was arresting a guy. And as I was arresting him, other officers came to my aid and they tackled him and I. We all fell to the ground. I landed first. Everybody landed on me. I landed on a rock the size of a freaking softball, right on my spine, right up towards the top of my between my shoulder blades, and it herniated and did some pretty gnarly things to a couple of discs. Pinched a nerve. I broke some ribs. Didn't even feel that, but I had a tremendous amount of pain in my shoulder. In fact, I thought I landed on the rock on my shoulder. It wasn't until I did the MRI and I pulled my shirt off that I realized that the stain of the rock was in the center of my back, and that when I looked into the mirror, I had this like bruise from hell. I mean, it was just bad. And then you can see like the bruise running down my spine, like all this just bruise running down, I guess the interior blood or whatever. And they did an MRI and found out that I had a pretty bad back injury. And I ended up also having some, I can't remember what it's called, but basically the spinal cord, it's thinned out. So they couldn't do the surgery that they wanted to do. I had to do physical therapy for like 2 years, where they literally electrified my back with these electrodes. And then they would hit they hit it with electricity and make my back spasm like tremendously. And then they would turn it off. And then when my muscles in my back relaxed, they would literally try to push like the disc back into place. It sucked. And so, yeah, long story short, ended my career back in early 2000s. And so, I had a friend of mine who was making quite a bit of money doing some sales jobs, and wasn't risking his life and didn't have the injuries I had. I had quite a few. I mean, that was just one. I had dislocated my ankle. I had hyperextended my knee on the job. I had broken the ribs. I had the one about the ankle was probably one of the worst ones too. I don't know if anybody's ever dislocated their ankle, but that's no joke. But yeah, a lot of different stuff. And well, now I do this. Jason Jensen, there you go. I don't know why I said Jen Jensen. I apologize, Jensen. What do I believe happened this summer? Good question. I'm not there yet to put something like and I'm not there yet to say I believe one way or another that this happened or that happened. Right now, if I were to be leaning out towards one direction, I would say that she wandered off the property and had an interaction with somebody else. I think the TBI and the FBI search out there on Van Hill Road is huge. That's a big piece of information and evidence to prove that there was an outside force involved, or at least law enforcement believes in that. I think that's probably where I'm at right now, is that she wandered off and somebody, she came in contact with somebody that resulted in something horrible happening. I think that's where I'm at. I don't know enough to say more. I don't know enough to accuse anybody one way or the other. I do think there's some weird things with Fred Hill. Just kind of like I was talking about that whole staged interview, just to point out that there was bones on his property. And I think he was worried about the cadaver dogs hitting on his property and that information getting out. And he was trying to get in front of it. I mean, that's just kind of what it seemed like to me. But interesting stuff. Ryan says nobody owns a Summer Wells case, and the more people looking at it is a good thing. I 100% agree. Well, guys, that's going to do it for me. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. I'll be back tomorrow night. We'll see what we're talking about by then. I think I might have some information in the Jack and Lily Sullivan disappearance that might be happening pretty soon. So it might be that. It might be hold off. I might come back and talk a little bit more about Summer Wells tomorrow if some more information gets dropped, and or if there's a response to my video. Again, nothing but love and respect to Michelle After Dark. Please go follow her. She I think she does really good work. I just wanted to respond to what she had said, and not in a disrespectful manner. I hope none of this is taken, or it doesn't come off that way. I would love to have her on my channel. Same thing with like Deception Detective. You know, he put out a video responding to my interview with Daniel Martell. I did a video to respond to that. Please go watch that if you haven't seen that. That was just a couple of days ago. I have nothing but respect for Deception Detective and would love to have him on my channel as well. And that's what I said in that video as well. I just, you know, just like in that video and in this video, I just wanted to point out a few things that I was trying, you know, that I see, so to speak. But hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell. I'll see you guys next time. Again, thank you again for Truth and JL and for Teddy Bear 987. We'll see you next time. Peace out.